Well, good morning, and welcome to Tuesdays with the Pilgrim as we continue our journey with Hopeful and Christian as they seek the way to the celestial city. We pick up today in chapter 11, part 4, The River of God. Then I saw that they went on their way to a pleasant river, which King David called the River of God, and which the Apostle John called the River of the Water of Life. Since their way went alongside its banks, Christian and Hopeful walked there with great delight. They drank from the pleasant water in the river, and their weary spirits were revitalized. In addition to this, there were green trees with all kinds of fruit lining the banks of the river. The leaves were edible, and were beneficial like medicine for the healing of various maladies. On both sides of the river were meadows that were perpetually green and covered with lovely lilies. They lay down here and slept a while, because here they found safety. When they awoke, they gathered some fruit to eat, and they drank again from the water of the river. Needing more rest, they once again lay down to sleep. They continued this routine for several days and nights, and they sang, "See here how the crystal river does glide, to comfort pilgrims by the highway side. The meadows are green with fragrant smell, yielding refreshment, and they will all tell what pleasant fruit and leaves these trees do yield. They will soon sell all to purchase this field." When they were ready to go on, for they were not yet at their journey's end, they ate, drank, and set out once again. Chapter 11, Part 5. Temptation to leave the rough way. Now I saw in my dream that they had not gone very far, when the river and the way parted for a time. This made them very sorry, yet they dared not go out of the way. Now the way from the river was rough, and because their feet were already sore from their travels, they became very discouraged. They continued to press on, but began to wish for a better way. Before long, they saw lying in front of them, on the left side of the road, a meadow. It was called Bypath Meadow. Then Christian said to his brother, "If this meadow lies alongside our way, let's go into it." He climbed up some steps that led over a fence, so they could take a good look. And there he saw a path that lay parallel to the way, but was on the other side of the fence. "This is the way I want to go," he said, "because it will make our traveling much easier. Come on, Hopeful, let's go on over." "But what if the trail over there leads us out of the way?" asked Hopeful. "That's not likely. Look, doesn't it go alongside of the way?" Chapter 11, Part 6. In Bypath Meadow. So Hopeful was persuaded by his friend to follow him over. Once they were inside, they found it was very easy on their feet. Soon they were able to see a man ahead of them walking the same path. His name was Vain Confidence. They called out to him and asked him where this way led. He replied, "To the celestial gate." Christian turned to Hopeful and said, "See, didn't I tell you? Now you can be sure that we made the right decision." So they followed, and he kept ahead of them. But soon night began to overtake them, and it grew so dark that they lost sight of the man. Vain Confidence, not being able to see the way clearly, fell into a deep pit. It was put there on purpose by the owner of the grounds to catch presumptuous fools, and there Vain Confidence would die. Now Christian and Hopeful both heard the man fall. They immediately called out to find out what had happened, but there was no answer, only a faint groaning. "Where are we now?" cried Hopeful. Christian remained silent, fearing that he had led them both out of the way. Then a dreadful storm came, with rain, thunder, and lightning, and the water began rising quickly. Hopeful groaned to himself, saying, "Oh, that I had kept on my way." "But who could have thought that this path would lead us out of the way?" Christian asked. "From the very first I was afraid of it," replied Hopeful, "and that's why I gave a gentle caution. I would have spoken more forcefully, but you are older than I." "My dear brother, please don't be offended with me," pleaded Christian. "I am sorry I have brought you out of the way and led you into such imminent danger. Please, brother, forgive me, for I didn't do it with an evil intent." "Take comfort, Christian, my brother, for I forgive you, and I believe that this will work out for our good. I'm glad that I have such a merciful brother with me. But we must not stand here like this. Let's try and go back again." "But let me go first," said Hopeful. "No, please let me go first, that if there is any danger I might come to it first, since this is all my fault." "No," replied Hopeful, "I cannot let you go first, because your mind is troubled, and it might lead you astray again." Then they heard a voice, and they were encouraged, as they heard the voice saying, "Let your hearts be toward the highway, the same way that you came, turn back to." But by this time the waters had risen greatly, which made going back very dangerous. Then, in my dream, I thought to myself that it is easier going out of the way when we are in it, than it is going into the way when we are out of it. Now the pilgrims seek to gratify the flesh, but by seeking this ease, oh, how they afresh find many new griefs that they're plunged head into. Seek pleasing the flesh, and your life you'll undo. So Pilgrim and Hopeful ventured back, but it was so dark and the flood so high that they nearly drowned 9 or 10 times. Not only that, but no matter how they tried, they couldn't get back that night to the steps that led over the wall. Finally they found a little shelter and decided to sit there until daybreak. Being very tired, however, they fell asleep. And that's the end of today's reading. Next week we pick up with Chapter 11, Part 7, Seized by Giant Despair. Well, doesn't sound good, does it? Anyway, until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.